Now I need to learn how to write the most compelling and strong version of Project Spiegeltent, and I need to find the correct door, and I'll open up a door and I'll start writing and be like, okay, this is the wrong room. And so we're now on draft 4 of Project Spiegeltent, which is so cool and so exciting. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing a day in the life vlog on a very exciting day. Today is the day I get back to work on Project Spiegeltent, which is my arty Künstlerroman novel. It's a story about a young woman whose name is Claire, who goes to work at a creepy arts festival which is hiding something, and it's speculative and it's fun and it's really early. It's like just turned 7 a.m. The sun has just risen. We've gone through daylight savings here. Yeah, basically, if you're new here, hello, I'm Christy. My debut novel, Theodora's Tea Shop, is coming out in July. That's so incredibly soon. Project Spiegeltent, which is my next novel, I sent that off to my literary agent a few months ago. I've gotten my feedback back from her. She loved the story, which is really, really good. She has edits. Yes, I'm gonna start working on those edits in this video, which is really, really exciting. I've been itching to get back into this story. Today, because it's a momentous day, I wanted to do something special and get up and go for a nice beach walk. I need to grab my stuff. Got my Project Spiegeltent notebook. We're ready to go. Let's go. Hello, we're all parked now. I am going to head to a cafe. I think because it's quite early on a weekday, hopefully I can get a seat overlooking the sand dunes and the ocean. That would be really lovely, but if not, obviously fine. The cafe I'm hoping to go to is called The Nest. We're in Kingston Park right now, kind of like Seacliff, Kingston Park area, and this is such a beautiful area of Adelaide. The cliffs are really, really beautiful. If you're in South Australia and you want something to do, walking in between like Brighton and the cliffs of Hallett Cove, like just so gorgeous, so pretty, especially at sunset. I am really hungry. I was hoping to go for a walk beforehand, but I am excited for breakfast, and I'm excited to start jotting down some notes and ideas and basically going through everything that I think I want to do with the story and kind of extrapolating it's too early in the morning. Is that the right use of that word? Basically, I just want to get the creative cogs whirring. I want to start writing notes. So I headed down to the beach for a nice walk along the sand dunes. I have been really loving doing this recently, like going to the ocean really early in the morning. It was so quiet because it was a weekday. There was almost no one around. As I've mentioned in previous videos, I find the ocean very grounding and very soothing, and it doesn't really match the aesthetic of the book I'm working on, which is more creepy, arty, circus vibes, but I loved having this little walk before starting working on the notes of Project Spiegeltent. Now, before I talk about what I'm doing in my process, oh my god, I had a lovely time working here, but in true frazzled fashion, I got a phone call right as I was leaving, and I was focused on the phone call, and I walked out of this cafe and completely forgot to pay. Like, I literally got halfway down the esplanade and then had a oh no moment and just raced back, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to commit a crime. You would not believe how many times I've done this in my life, but the staff was so lovely and kind about it because I was really embarrassed. I was like, how did I do this? How has this happened to me again? So yeah, I really recommend this cafe. The staff are lovely, very forgiving. My brilliant brain aside, let's get back to Project Spiegeltent. So essentially what I was doing here was just writing notes about what I think I need to do on the story. So I had already read my literary agent's notes. So I think what I'm going to be focusing on in this edit is solidifying a couple of the character arcs. I'm going to basically take these two different characters and make them into the same character, because I have these two characters who are kind of not quite depthy enough in terms of their arcs, in terms of their backstories, but they both play a big role on the story. So I'm thinking of just consolidating them and making them the same person. So that's going to take a little bit of work, but honestly, it makes a lot of sense to do that. And then some stuff with the ending, some logic stuff around the world building, because with this past edit, I was so focused on structure and pacing and getting the beats right on the first go. And we've done that. That's really, really good. I'm so pleased. But there are a couple little moments towards the end where the logic of the world hasn't quite matched up perfectly. However, those are really easy things to fix. I find it so much easier fixing something at the end of a book than going back and changing all of the motivations in the middle. So anyway, I'm writing notes. I'm effectively doing a bit of a creative warm-up, and then after I was done, I headed home, I got ready for the day, and then it was time to start writing and planning on my computer. Can't really see it just yet, but I have rearranged my study and I can tell you, I have ripped out the doors for my desk. The desk nook is working really well. It's now time for me to sit down to go through my edit letter again, to make all of the points from the edit letter that I want to actionable items. And also I want to lay out all of the scenes from the first act of the book. Now this is my favorite thing to do when I'm starting a new draft, is to feel like I have a clean slate, get out my digital sticky notes and to start plotting out visually where the story is currently sitting. Which brings me to the sponsor of this video, Millanote, which is a visual organization tool that I absolutely love. Now I adore Millanote. I've been working with them for a number of years. This is the tool that I use to visually lay out my novels. There are a few things that we're going to do today. Let's hop over to my desk. So with Millanote today, I'd like to go through my edit letter. I really want to take my time with it. So I'll do that and then I'll come back to you and explain everything that I did. So I have my main hub board here, which is where I'm organizing everything for Project Spiegel Tent. Now, if you've watched any of my previous videos, you would have seen this. And so within this board, I'm going to create another board and name it Draft 4. And I'm going to start everything from scratch because that's the way that I like to work. So jumping into my new board within a board, which is my Draft 4 board, something I love about Millanote is that there are so many templates to choose from. So as we open up a new board here, you can see novel plan, character profile, novel mood board, story outline. These are great because they make your life easier, but also if you've never plotted a story before, it's a really good jumping off point to start thinking about the kinds of things you can brainstorm. So jumping into this, I went through my full 5-page edit letter from my literary agent, highlighted the things on the letter, and then pulled them into here and rewrote them in my own words. So I want to make sure I'm understanding every single part of this edit letter, added my own notes on, well, we can do this thing, but let's not do that thing. And so I started with tone, and then I added pace. I added our main character, whose name is Claire, the ending, and also the antagonist as well. I do find it incredibly beneficial to lay everything out like this, to rewrite everything in my own words, to have these little notes. I've added to-do lists with everything so I can check them or uncheck them. I've color-coded everything. I've added arrows so I can see what points to what. And now that I have this bird's eye view of my edit letter and all of the things that I want to action, I can jump into my new mood board. This honestly is just a board that I like making for joy. It's just pretty. It's just really beautiful and fun. And now because the vibe of the story has shifted ever so slightly. So one of the things that I got told by my literary agent is the first half of the story is a little bit more creepy and ominous, and the second half of the story is a little bit less so. Can we please lean more into the creepy stuff? And so I am very excited by that. I've changed out some pictures here. I love this picture of Adelaide in the fog. Obviously it's set at an arts organization, so there is a young woman working here trying to do her job. I'm also going to add to my pre-draft research. So for this one, I've just copy pasted one of my earlier boards. With Millanote, it's so easy to copy paste things, to drag them in, to delete, to edit. This is one of my favorite things about using a digital organization tool, because unlike the board I used to use, which is over there, it still has all of the like draft 1 Theodora's Tea Shop planning things on it. It's hard to bring with you, obviously. Imagine whipping that out at like the library or a cafe, but also naturally it's quite hard to move things around and edit them because they're sitting there physically. So for something like my research board, I love that it's so easy that I can just paste in the things that I had from my previous drafts. I love that I can just pop in YouTube videos here, jumping back into my draft 4 mini hub boards. And this is my favorite thing about Millanote, that you can have boards within boards within boards. I've also got my Project Spiegel Tent playlist here. Again, one of my favorite things about this is that it's so easy to make everything look really, really pretty and color coded. And so you can see that all of my boards are color coded based on the pictures I have here. But now I'm going to show you my replotting board. These are all of the scenes that I laid out today for Project Spiegel Tent. So here we have Act 1. I can set out Chapter 1 and just place every single scene down. I can add my notes, I can color code everything, I can add arrows because it's so easy to color pick from these images, and so everything looks very pretty and aesthetically pleasing, which is helpful both from the perspective of me enjoying this process, but also it makes everything visually cohesive and really, really easy for my brain. And this is the kind of exercise that I love doing at the beginning of a draft, because normally when I'm starting a new draft, ideally I've had a good few months in between. Like I've been waiting for feedback, I've been doing other things, working on Theodora's Tea Shop. I'm finally stepping back into Project Spiegel Tent, and now with fresh eyes, I can see the whole story. I can see what's working. Thankfully, Act 1, as I said, doesn't have that much work to do. I kind of find that with my stories, It's never the beginning of the story that needs very much editing. Now, I've been asked to add a chapter or two in the middle, but generally there's not a lot of work that I need to do to the general structure of this story. It seems like the scaffolding is all really, really working, which feels like a really big win. I have some changes to make to the end of the story. I have some changes to make to one of the character arcs. I have some changes to make mostly to the antagonist and how that's working and how like the themes kind of land. But here with these digital sticky notes, I'm really just laying out where the scenes are, what's going on, the kind of foreshadowing I now need to add into the story because I have another idea of something I want to do later on. But this is basically my ritual at this point. When I'm starting a new draft of the story, I like to sit down, take a few hours, lay everything out really visually, work out all my scenes. Big thank you to Millanote for sponsoring this part of the video. Millanote is available for free with no time limit. Please feel free to check them out by clicking the link in the description down below. I'm pretty pleased with how all of this is sitting. I've got everything really clear. I love my new mood board. I feel like it kind of captures everything a little bit more gloomily and ominously. I'm so excited to be jumping back into Project Spiegeltent, to be working on that. Like, I feel like I haven't been drafting something or actively working on something in such a long time, which is ridiculous because I've been editing Theodora's Tea Shop over and over and over again for the last year. So I have done a lot of writing work, but really it kind of feels like I haven't done anything new. And so we're now on draft 4 of Project Spiegeltent, which is so cool and so exciting. And looking at how these scenes are laid out, like this is Millanote is no longer sponsoring this part of the video, but this looks so pretty. I've got Act 1 all laid out. I'll lay out the other acts later. But yeah, I'm gonna go take a bit of a break. I'm gonna go have some lunch. I spent some time working on some non-fiction pitches, so that has been a really fun exercise that I've been doing. I've been doing so many things. I also just submitted the second to last proof of Theodora's Tea Shop, so we have the last few tiny little edits of this round of proofing, and then there'll be one final reread of the story. So I've had a very productive day today so far. Went for a nice walk along the beach, got all of my plotting stuff done. Again, it doesn't really feel like replotting this time, which is really, really exciting. One of the main things I wanted to do with Project Spiegeltent, which is, I suppose, technically the 4th book I've worked on, so to rewind a little bit, first novel I wrote ultimately failed in the querying trenches back in 2020. I then worked on a book called A Year in Tōkyō, which I self-published. Then came Theodora's Tea Shop, and now is Project Spiegeltent, which is technically number 4. And the way that I approached Spiegeltent this time around was from a slightly different angle, because with Theodora's Tea Shop I learned so much. I wrote and rewrote the book so many times. I went through querying, I had so much feedback, I worked with my literary agent, I did so many edits. We then got a publishing deal, there were more edits, and so through this process I was also trying to work on Project Spiegeltent. I know that the biggest pain point I had when I was editing for Tea Shop was with the structure in the middle, where basically a couple of things happened in the middle of Theodora's Tea Shop that we ended up sort of rearranging and changing a bit in order to make the pacing work just a bit better. But because the story was so intricately written, that was a really, really difficult thing to do, to kind of unstitch this kind of complex tapestry and then restitch everything so that everything made perfect sense. So when I was writing and rewriting drafts 1 to 3 of Project Spiegeltent, I was a lot more mindful of the pacing around the middle of the story and the end of the story, because I had learned so much from doing the previous novel, so that I had a much better eye for it this time round. And thankfully, something I'm really, really proud of of we have a lot fewer notes around pacing and structure this time round. With Theodora's Tea Shop, my edit letter from Bailey was like 13 pages long, but with Project Spiegel Tent, it's only 5 pages, and I'm taking that as a bit of a win. I'm so proud of Theodora's Tea Shop. Like, I dug really deep, I worked really hard. I'm so proud of that story, and I'm really, really happy that a lot of those learnings I got to put into Project Spiegel Tent. In a way, it kind of made it a lot harder because I could see all of the things that I wasn't as good at because I had a much, much better eye for it. And so sometimes I suppose it's that kind of Dunning-Kruger thing of when you start doing something and you don't know as much about it, it looks easier, and the more and more and more and more and more you know about that thing, the harder and harder and harder it gets. I've been trying to write novels since I was like 16, 17, so I've been here for a long time. But yeah, the process of writing Theodora's Tea Shop to the quality that I got it to, finally understanding how that worked for me, kind of in some ways made Project Spiegel Tent a little bit more difficult. And so I'm really, really, really proud that the edits we have for Project Spiegel Tent don't really relate to the structure or the pacing of the story. I'm very happy with that. There will be no complex unstitching and restitching this time around, thank God, because I think that would have killed me. I think it would have killed me having to do that again. One of the things I'm noticing as I scroll through this story and reread everything is that I probably need just like a little bit more time to make a decision on where I want to go with everything. Now, my process for writing has always been very iterative. If you've watched many of my writing vlogs before, you will know it's something that I especially do with the beginning of the story. So by the time I was finally working on Project Spiegel Tent Draft 1, I had already tried to begin the story so many times, and sometimes it's kind of hard for me to find the right way into the story. It essentially feels like I'm standing in a hallway with lots and lots of doors, and I need to find the correct door, and I'll open up a door and I'll start writing and be like, okay, this is the wrong room, into the next one, into the next one. And so when I begin a story, I have the concept, I have the blurb, I have what I think is probably going to be the title of the story. Sometimes it takes me a few goes to find the right door and the right room. And so with Project Spiegel Tent, I found the right room. It took me such a long time. Although Spiegel Tent, this second novel, has been a really, really hard novel to write. Apparently your second novel is famously always the hardest novel to write. It's very much an arts worker novel. It has circusy themes and art themes in it as well, but one of the things I wanted to do was to write a novel in the first person that was funny. And so my main character of Claire, and also I need to circle back to this as a segue, we'll get back on task in a second. I have been playing the game Claire Obscure, and I just finished it, and it was beautiful and heartbreaking, and it ripped my heart out and stamped on it so many times. I loved this game. I thought it was brilliant. It's so funny though when you're working on a story or like a big project that's going to take you many, many years, and you find a piece of media that has some themes that you're also exploring in your work. Like, even down to the fact that there's an antagonist in Claire Obscure who has almost an identical name for something that I already had in Project Spiegel Tent. And even down to the fact that when Tyler told me about Claire Obscure and he's like, oh, it's this game and it's about art in the game, the theme of the game is art, and it's called Claire Obscure. And so I was like, oh my God, my book is about art and my main character's name is Claire. So that's the stressful thing of working on a novel and knowing you're committing to a project that's going to take you 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Every time you pick up a book or a game, you're like, please don't be the same thing that I'm working on. Yeah, anyway, back on task. My main character's name is Claire. It's written in the first person, and it's also an epistolary novel. And she is funny and sarcastic, but she comes into this world in a way that is very naive, and she comes from money, and she has some really, really developed ideas of what makes an artist and what the art world is supposed to be like. And so Claire kind of has this opposite experience that I had coming into the arts, whereas Claire comes from a very, very privileged background. She's quite funny and she's endearing, and she looks at the world in this really like weird way, which was a joy to write, but it was also quite hard to find. So there are things that I put into the story with her character that like I wanted to be endearing or I wanted to be funny that I think have landed, but there are also some parts of her characterization that haven't quite landed for my literary agent Bailey, where I've interpreted something a little bit differently to how it's come out on the page. And so that's one of the things I'm working on for Claire. I'm supposed to like Claire, even though she is very, very privileged. Like it's a story about this privileged young woman who comes in and and she learns a whole bunch of stuff. So anyway, I think I'm just going to keep writing notes. I'm going to keep writing notes. I'm going to go through the story, and then I'm going to really sit with this for a little bit. I'm going to stop myself from diving in and just rewriting stuff, because I want to make sure that I stick this landing not on the first go, because this is draft 4, but on like the 4th go, because it'd be really cool if we could go on submission with this book at some point this year. I don't know when. I'm all done with work for today. It's just about 6 p.m. and basically I spent most of today writing notes, going through the story. Over the course of 5 or 6 years, I learned how to write Theodora's Tea Shop, right? Like I learned how to write that book, and now I need to learn how to write the most compelling and strong version of Project Spiegeltent. And I feel like with every novel I write in some kind of way, I'm going to be relearning how to do this over and over again, because every novel is going to be different characters and a new challenge and a new context and new research. Unlike with so many of my other edits of Theodora's Tea Shop, I'm not rewriting Project Spiegeltent. I feel like what is there is good. I think the structure is really good. When I saw the edit letter from my literary agent, I was so relieved, because I knew that all of the big pieces were working well in the story, and really this edit is just going to be me fine-tooth editing things, like going through, making sure like character arcs are working well. Like I think a lot of the work for this story is going to be the 60%, maybe the 65% mark until the end of the story, I think is where a lot of that work is going to be. Theodora's Tea Shop comes out in like 3 months. That's nothing. That's so incredibly soon, which is really, really exciting. So yeah, I am not going to push myself to get this draft done really, really quickly. Ideally, I'd like to do it in the next 2 months, but we'll see how we go. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. And before I go, I wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone over on Patreon for supporting my videos, because without the beautiful people over on Patreon, I would not get to do this as my job. Over on Patreon, we have a whole bunch of lovely bonus content, our book club, our Discord server. I post writing updates over there. We have so many cool things over on Patreon. So if you'd like to check out Patreon, there's a link in the description down below. And also, if you want to pre-order my debut novel, Theodora's Tea Shop, there's also a link for that. Thank you guys so very much for watching. Take care, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.